Jimmy Stafford is a musician and songwriter who is an original member of the Grammy Award-winning band Train from its inception in 1994 until he parted ways with the band in 2016. His unique style of guitar playing helped give Train its distinctive sound. And he's with us here just now. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here because that guitar sound really is and was the signature of Train, isn't it?
Oh man, I thank you for saying that, but I would have to disagree and say that it's the voice of singer Pat Monahan. I mean, you hear that voice and right away you know it's Train. You know. I don't know if that holds so true with the guitar stuff, especially in the later albums when there wasn't as much of the guitar in the later songs.
Yeah. So how did you first get involved with the band?
3 of the original members of Train were in a previous band together called the Apostles, an LA band. And we did all right. We had a record deal, but the record didn't do well, and the band broke up. And then a few years later, one of the members, former Apostle members, rang me up. He was living in San Francisco and had started a new project with Pat Monahan, and they invited me up to San Francisco. So I joined up with them, and then we brought on our bass player from the old Apostles band, and he had been playing in a band with drummer Scott Underwood, and he brought him along.
What would you say is your favorite Train song?
Oh man, that's hard. That's really hard. I mean, I have many favorites, and for different reasons. A song like "Drops of Jupiter" changed our lives. That was our first invitation to the Grammys, and we won. And it was, everything changed after that song. And it never got old performing that song. Like, it's just a great song, and and I think it still stands up. When you hear it on the radio, it's like, wow, it's still a good song. So I mean, that's but I wouldn't say it's my favorite. It just it changed the band's career from that point on, and it certainly changed my life. As well as like "Hey Soul Sister." Now, as a song, if I'm being critical, I don't think it's near the song that "Drops Jupiter" was, but that song, I think it just crossed the 1 billion plays on Spotify, and I just received a diamond record plaque for that song. I mean, that song. The band split up, or I guess we just took a break for a few years while Pat did a solo album in, I think it was 2007. And when we regrouped in 2009, we weren't really sure if people were still interested in the band. So that song, "Hey Soul Sister," kind of relaunched Train in a big way, a real big way.
Yeah, it did incredibly well because I think, was it the second best-selling single in the US in 2010?
Yeah. It was crazy, and we were invited back to the Grammys again, and we won another one. So that song kind of but again, I wouldn't put it on my favorite Train songs list. I prefer a lot of the deeper cuts. Like I still am fond of a song called "I Am" off of the debut album, or off the "Drops of Jupiter" album. A song like "Mississippi," or "Hopeless." And then even off the third album, the one that has a song called "Calling All Angels," that was a big single for us. That album's got a song on it called "Your Every Color" that I still, those are the songs that if I was going to go back and listen to old Train records, I'd probably skip over the hits because you hear those enough. There's some really good deep cuts on those albums.
Yeah, and you mentioned that "Drops of Jupiter" still sounds good today, so either it stood the test of time or music hasn't changed much. I'd hope it's the former.
Yeah, I think it's the former. Because music has changed a lot. And I mean, I'm a fan of music, obviously, but I mean, I love all the new stuff that's going on. I have two young daughters,
Yeah.
and I have them with me every other weekend. And I mean, we listen to the hit station around the
Mm.
current hit station around the house on Pandora. Do you guys have Pandora over there, don't you?
I don't know. It doesn't ring a bell.
It's a streaming service over here.
Yeah.
But we listen to like today's hits, and I love everything that's going on. I mean,
Mm.
I love Harry Styles.
Yeah.
I love Billie Eilish. And there's just so much cool, like Halsey. I really
Mm.
like Halsey. There's just some really cool, stuff going on right now that I'm trying to learn a little bit
Yeah.
from and adapt some of it into my own songwriting.
This is a terrible question, but I want to know the answer. Why is the band called Train?
It's funny when Rob and Pat called me to join them up in San Francisco. They'd only been together for like a month, but it was kind of
Mm.
Rob's conception.
Yeah.
And, just ironically, he was the first member of the band to depart
Mm.
after the Drops to Jupiter album, after only two albums. But Rob had this conception of the band being kind of more like the Eagles, where like we would all sing.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be like a lead singer. And Pat was actually a drummer. So when we started acoustically, just Rob, myself, and Pat was playing like little, percussion and a little kick drum, and Rob and I would play guitars, and we'd each take turns singing songs. But that progressed into Pat being the singer. But along with Rob's conception of the band, when I was invited up there, he already had a name for the project, and it was called
Mm.
Train. I wasn't a big fan of the name. I don't know, but it grew on me,
Yeah.
and it ended up being a good name. But he really, I've heard him answer the question in interviews before, and he would say it was actually not a really good answer, but but he would say that the name just came from he heard a interview with the singer of Echo and the Bunnymen,
Oh.
and he had said in the interview that there was nothing romantic about America anymore.
Mm.
And Rob thought trains are romantic.
Are they?
We should call the band Train. So that was kind of his where he came up with the name from. It, like I said, it grew on me. And when you think about it, there's a lot of names that like when you very first heard them, you're kind of like, huh, is U2, is that like a good name?
Mm.
U2. When I first heard that, I was like, what? Who are these guys? But I love the name. Now, even like the Police.
Mm.
Like, really? You're going to call your band the Police?
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah. I suppose maybe it's a good thing to have a simple one syllable name.
Yeah, I suppose it is. But then again, yeah, the Beatles,
Yeah.
Oasis. Like, there's so many great Radiohead.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know if you can tell the Smiths, the
Mm.
Cure. I can go on and on, but
Yeah.
and I don't know if you can tell by my answers there that I'm a huge fan of UK music
Yeah.
and bands. Going way back. Starting with the Beatles and going up through like Led Zeppelin and the '70s
Mm.
stuff, Elton John, the Who, and even to today's music, Harry Styles.
Yeah. Although Harry Styles seemed to have a weird accent at the moment, so
Yeah,
I don't
what's
know
up
if he's
with that?
quite British.
Is he British?
He is British, but he must have spent a lot of time touring around the world and maybe has picked up different things.
Yeah. Speaking of him, I just saw a video like a week ago of him when he first auditioned on The X Factor with
Yeah.
Simon Cowell and those guys. And he auditioned with a very bad version of a Train song, Hey Soul
Oh,
Sister.
wow.
Did you see that video?
I probably have at some point, actually, but
Yeah,
I've forgotten.
Google it. Like when we're done with the interview, if you just look up Harry Styles, "Hey Soul Sister," and it'll
Yeah.
come up. And fortunately, they gave him a second try
Hmm.
on the audition, and he sang a Stevie Wonder song, and he did much better on that song. And he
Well,
got the gig.
yeah. Does that suggest anything about your songs, or is it more to do
Well,
with luck?
it's funny. Pat sings in a range
Hmm.
that's very difficult to sing along with. Like even me as a band member, like as a former band member, people will ask me to play a Train song or something on my guitar. I can play it on the guitar for you, but I can't sing that. you
Yeah.
know, I'd have to sing it like an octave lower or something. But I've even heard contestants on like America's Got Talent. Are you aware of that show over there?
Yes.
I think you have your own version.
Yeah, we
But
do.
yeah, but I've heard contestants do Drops of Jupiter on that show, and they always kind of get slammed by the judges. Like
Mm.
I remember the first time I saw somebody do it on that show, one of the judges was like, "Why did you choose that song? Like
Mm.
it's such a difficult song to sing, and and you just made it really hard on yourself."
I suppose maybe some people want to try and go for a difficult song to show that they're really good, and then it completely
Yeah.
backfires.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Now, from your time in Train, are you able to pick out one or two highlights?
Oh, no. I mean, I could, of course I could name, I'll never forget walking on stage to accept that first Grammy that we won for Drops Jupiter.
Yeah.
And, we were in a pretty tight, we had some tight competition for that category of best song. U2, Coldplay was up for their new hit, Yellow. Matchbox 20 and Aerosmith were also up for best songs against us, and I thought for sure Coldplay was gonna win for Yellow. But anyways, when we won, I'll never forget walking out onto the stage, and U2 was sitting right in the front row.
Wow.
And I was at the time, well, I still am a huge fan, but I was a real big fan back then. And I remember walking out and just staring at those guys, and Bono looked at me and gave me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was like the coolest thing ever. And whenever I've retold that interview, that story in interviews, when Pat's around me in the interview as well,
Mhm.
Pat had a really good comeback to my story. He would say, "Yeah, that was Bono saying, you can have this one, and we're going to take all the rest." And they did. They won a handful of Grammys that night.
Wow. Now, after you left Train, you went back home and discovered all these songs that were half written that you wanted to kind of finish. Were these songs written during your time in Train or even earlier than that?
My solo debut album really was a result of it came from songs that were written for Train. Hey Soul Sister was really the first time that Pat wrote a song that was that successful with other writers that weren't the band members, and it worked so well that he kind of wanted to keep doing that after that. So the band kind of stopped writing as a band at that point. I mean, there would be maybe a song or two on each record that had band credits on it. And Pat would always come to us during the time when we're writing for a new album. Do you guys have anything, right? And so I would I always was writing on my own and trying to come up with ideas that maybe Pat would find interesting, because the bottom line is Pat's the singer and he's going to write the lyrics, and he's not going to write lyrics to anything that doesn't inspire him to write lyrics to. So I would play him songs, my song ideas, and of course none of them had lyrics, because I don't want to, then he definitely isn't interested in the song. So I would play them my music ideas, and they just they didn't get used, and they had no lyrics or melody written for them. So those are the songs that I revisited after I left the band, and said, well, hey, I've got these ideas here. I don't think they're that bad. They just need some lyrics and a melody. Which wasn't really my forte. So I experimented, and I came up with some lyrics and melodies for a group of songs, and I thought they were good enough to maybe just put out there. So I did.
Yeah. How does your songwriting now compare to the style of Train musically?
I mean, I don't think it compares much at all to the current style of Train songwriting. I think maybe some of the older Train fans from the first four albums or so might hear some similarities to maybe some of the older Train, or maybe some, sound in some of the guitars. I don't always write my songs
Mm.
based around guitar. I get bored with the guitar, because I'm so familiar with the instrument that as a songwriter, when I pick up a guitar, I just tend to go to the same chords,
Mm.
and it's boring. So a lot of times I'll maybe start with a drum beat. I'll find a drum sample, or just a cool drum beat in my head, and I'll program what I'm hearing, and maybe I'll work a bass groove into that,
Mm.
and then maybe play a piano part or some synths or something.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm like a big British music fan.
Yeah.
Like I love Depeche Mode lately. I've
Mm.
been listening to a lot of Depeche Mode and Cure and Smith,
Yeah.
and I really like I like incorporating those styles into my style
Yeah.
of writing, which really is kind of far from Train.
Do you deliberately try and make it different from Train, or do you try not to worry about that and just write what you want to write?
Yeah, I do that. I don't think about anything. I mean, sometimes I'll sit down and be like, I want to write like a Depeche Mode style of song.
Yeah.
And I'm currently finishing up a new album,
Mm.
and there's a song on there that I was like, I wanted to write a Depeche Mode type of song, and I think I pulled it off. Maybe too
Yeah.
much. Hope I don't get sued. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, you try to do that, and it never
Yeah.
turns out sounding, like Depeche Mode, because
Yeah.
I'm not Depeche Mode.
Mm.
It sounds like me.
Yeah.
So, but it's fun to think like that. Like, what would Depeche Mode do here?
Mm. Yeah.
And of course, it's different. But
Yeah.
but you might hear some, when you hear the song, you might be like, oh, that's the song he's talking about right there.
Yeah. So, what are all the things that you're working on at the moment? You've just mentioned that you're writing an album.
I'm always writing an album.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm not doing music these days to try and be successful at it anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like I've kind of been there and done that and had my 15 minutes of fame, which was actually turned out to be 23 years. And that was great. And I loved every minute of it. And I'm very proud of it. But that was then, and I'm not going to do that again. I don't even
Yeah.
want to do that again. There were parts of doing that were a lot of hard work. And a lot of it I enjoyed. I enjoyed the traveling. I enjoyed performing live all around the
Mm.
world, and I enjoyed making records. And then there's the stuff that's more like business like that I didn't really enjoy too much. Like interviews, Toby, and like photo shoots. Oh, I hated photo shoots, and
Yeah.
like making videos, even like certain television appearances. I enjoyed it if we were just performing, because then I just treated it like a live performance. But sometimes you had to, like, I don't know, be part of a TV show or something. And there's just some,
Mm.
I don't want to do any of that stuff again. I mean, all the promotional stuff, all the radio shows we had to do,
Yeah.
that was a lot of work. We would do that stuff every day. And,
Yeah.
I'm just not interested in that
Mm.
anymore. All I'm doing is writing songs, recording them,
Yeah.
mostly on my own, and putting them out there.
Yeah.
I'm doing very little promotion. I mean, I do have a mailing list and a website, which is jimmystaffordmusic.com. And I have, like some social media pages where I'll promote, a new song or a new album when it comes out. But I've quietly, semi-quietly released 7 albums since leaving the band in early 2017.
Yeah.
And the one that I'm currently working on will be my 8th release, and I'll probably have it out in January. And of course, I always feel like my newer albums are the better ones, just because I'm growing as a writer, mostly as a lyricist. And I'm a big fan of melodies, which is why I like all that 80s UK music. Great melodies. And so I'm learning, and I'm learning the recording process of doing it on my own. I always worked in big studios with producers and stuff. And I always had a production minded view of things, and knew what was going on and stuff. But doing it yourself is it's different. And so I think I've gotten better at it with each album, as I think I've gotten better at crafting my songs and my melodies and my lyrics.
Yeah. Well, where are all the places that we're able to keep up to date with you and find all your music?
Well, you can start with the website, which I mentioned, jimmystaffordmusic.com. And that has links to everywhere. If you want to find me on Instagram, I think it's all Jimmy Stafford Music or Jimmy, Instagram's Jimmy Stafford Music. Facebook, I had a band page on Facebook, and it got hijacked by somebody in Taiwan. And it was a verified music page and everything, and it got taken over. So Facebook, got rid of it. But so now I don't have a band page. I just have a personal Facebook page. I don't really like Facebook much, anyways. But and I'm on Twitter. And that's that's it. My email, all that stuff can be found on the website.
Well, many thanks for joining us on the show today. It's been great to talk to you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Toby.